Hello everyone. Well, there is a good chance of snow this afternoon and this evening across Wisconsin, but the thing is, this afternoon and this evening, it's mostly going to be light to moderate snow. When we're expecting the widespread heavy snow, freezing rain, and sleet is Wednesday night, and Thursday. So that's going to be the bigger impact event. But we've got to talk about this good chance for light to moderate snow first. So let's start things 8 a.m. this morning. Now, 8 a.m. this morning, nothing going on, completely dry across the state. Although cold out there, especially when you factor in the winds. And we're doing a comparison of the northern half of the state and the southern half of the state, because that's where we're going to see the wind variation. So across the northern half of the state, we'll just call it breezy with gusts around 25 miles per hour, which is a good thing because we do have colder temperatures there. Now, it's not as cold in southern Wisconsin, but windier in southern Wisconsin. In fact, average gusts in southern Wisconsin around 35 miles per hour early this morning. So it's windy out there. So that means, yeah, I know it's 17 in Madison, 21 in Kenosha, but really feeling more like 7 in Madison and 11 in Kenosha. You can take 10 degrees off these temperatures, and that's what it's really feeling like out there. So we're going to jump ahead to noon now. I notice still dry, but snow right on our doorstep. And so it's during the afternoon hours that we're going to see the snow filling in from west to east. So now we're looking at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And we may still be dry for places like Sheboygan, Racine, Kenosha, but scattered snow showers in the central part of the state and widespread light to moderate snow in the western part of the state. But look how the winds died down in both northern and southern Wisconsin this afternoon. There's not going to be much wind, barely anything. North part of the state, winds are only going to be around 5 miles per hour, and just a light breeze in the southern part of the state. So that's also good news. There's not going to be much blowing snow. When this snow is coming down, there isn't going to be that much wind. So that always helps. That keeps the visibility. So visibilities will be somewhat reduced anytime there's snow. When it's not blowing snow, that helps. So by the time we get to 8 o'clock this evening, now look how we are covered in light to moderate snow across the state. I will mention, once you transition into central and northern Wisconsin, there is the possibility for some pockets of heavy snow. See that darkest shade of blue? It's indicating the possibility for some pockets of heavy snow, but not widespread heavy snow. It's going to be widespread light to moderate snow, maybe a little bit of rain mixing in the most southeastern part of the state, but for most, just snow. But a lot of it coming down 8 o'clock this evening. So now we're going to jump ahead to early tomorrow morning. And look what happens. The widespread light to moderate snow going away. And 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, it looks like it's mostly going to be scattered light to moderate snow showers, but gaps. However, notice what's happening in the southeastern part of the state. Suddenly, some more green showing up. And I do think early tomorrow morning, just plain rain or snow, just a plain old rain snow line, but that's going to be changing. Winds even in both northern and southern Wisconsin in the morning tomorrow, just breezy gusts around 20 miles per hour. Now we're going to watch the changes that especially occur in the southern part of the state, but also in the northern part of the state, because the activity is going to be picking up as we get to 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now we've got green, purple, and blue showing up in southern Wisconsin. Now, this purple now, we're not talking about a rain-snow line. That purple now is freezing rain and sleet. So green is rain, the purple is freezing rain and sleet, a combination of both, and the blue is snow. So most likely 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, we're talking about freezing rain and sleet coming down in Madison, and most likely Janesville, we're seeing Kenosha rain, but there's still some uncertainty in the models, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. But again, though the best chance of precipitation early in the morning is snow, we're going to be changing over to freezing rain and sleet. And notice how there's a big area of purple across southern Wisconsin as we get into the afternoon tomorrow. In fact, it expands to places like Sheboygan, Portage, La Crosse, freezing rain and sleet. And the snow limited in the northern half of the state, but also look at the dark shades of blue showing up. So now we're talking about widespread heavy snow, not the widespread light to moderate snow, but widespread heavy snow coming down in the northern part of the state. But then we're dealing with freezing rain and sleet in southern Wisconsin. These are high temperatures tomorrow, and that's part of the reason why we're dealing with the different types of precipitation ranging from the mid-20s to the mid-30s from north to south. Windy for everyone, though, gusts 30, 35 miles per hour. And when you've got those gusts 30, 35 miles per hour, again, feeling about 10 degrees cooler than what the temperatures indicate. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now we're taking a look at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we're still talking about widespread precipitation. And it's still mostly the same story. You got that freezing rain and sleet, mainly in southern Wisconsin, with rain mixing in too, though. That is a possibility. Meanwhile, in northern Wisconsin, just locked in the snow and still heavy snow coming down. All right, so now we're jumping through a lot of time again. Now we're looking at Thursday morning. And notice how now we're seeing that freezing rain, sleet even expand farther to the north. So some places that were in the snow now finally getting in on some sleet. Mostly sleet probably, I think, in northern Wisconsin. Probably missing out on the freezing rain, but freezing rain in southern Wisconsin Thursday morning. And I'm just going to stop it here because I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but the story for Thursday is the peak is going to be in the morning hours. And we're going to see all this activity come to an end from west to east as we go through the day, and I do think everyone's going to be dry by Thursday evening, but I don't think it's going to be until Thursday evening, especially in the eastern part of the state, and the northeastern part of the state will probably be last for the activity to come to an end. And we'll call it windy, probably for much of, especially the morning hours in the northern part of the state, and still breezy in southern Wisconsin. All right, so that's the timing situation. Now we're taking a look at how much freezing rain and how much snow by the end of the day Thursday, by the end of Thursday afternoon. We're starting by looking at the freezing rain. And again, I mentioned that mix of freezing rain, sleet farther to the north, but I think that'll just be sleet for places like Green Bay. This is just looking at the freezing rain. And I do think the freezing rain is a possibility just in southern Wisconsin. To be honest, it's probably only going to be a few hundredths of an inch for La Crosse, even Portage, Sheboygan, but then things get tricky because how much rain mixes in and how much sleet mixes. You know, right now the model average says the most likely precipitation type in Madison is going to be sleet rather than freezing rain. So that's why Madison 0.05 inches, but Dubuque, Janesville, Kenosha, we're talking about 0.15, 0.2 inches because it's more freezing rain than sleet. But if this area of low pressure tracks just a little bit farther north, suddenly the area of greatest freezing rain is going to shift to Madison. And Madison, we're talking about 0.1 to a quarter of an inch. And then we'll only be in the few hundredths of an inch of freezing rain in the most southern part of, say, Janesville, Kenosha. So this forecast is very tricky, and literally just a shift of 10 miles. 10 miles in this low north or south is going to have an impact on how much sleet we see, how much freezing rain we see, and how much snow we see. But what we've got to watch, though, is how much freezing rain in particular. Because if it's just a few hundredths of an inch of freezing rain, we're talking about a glaze of ice. We're talking about, yes, ice on windshields. We're talking about ice on plants. We're talking about isolated icy roads, spots on roads, especially bridges, overpasses, secondary roads. But the problem is once you start talking about a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of freezing rain, now we're talking about tree branches sagging under that ice, touching power lines. So now we're talking about isolated power outages, and we're also talking about numerous icy roads, not isolated icy spots, numerous icy spots, which has a bigger impact on travel. So that's why the exact amount of freezing rain is important, and unfortunately it is still in question. There could still be shifts to this freezing rain forecast. And it's the same story for the snow forecast for southern Wisconsin. I mean, you have to look at the crazy gradient that we're looking at across southern Wisconsin. So this is where the model average for snow stands right now. But even the model average could shift at this point if this low tracks a little bit farther north or a little bit farther south. But right now, the model average for Madison, Dubuque, Janesville, Kenosha, just a dusting to 2 inches. But just to the north of Madison, Portage, the model average suddenly jumps to 3 to 5 inches of snow. And in La Crosse right now, the model average for snow is 8 to 10 inches. But that could go down in La Crosse if a little bit more sleet mixes in. Then it wouldn't be that impressive. So I've got that white circle across down because there is still definitely time for some adjustments to be made to these snowfall amounts and the freezing rain amounts. Now, beyond La Crosse, up to the north, I don't expect much changes in the forecast because this is pretty much going to be, there might be a little bit of sleet mixing in just to the north of Portage, but this is just a solid snow event, and boy, a lot of it. I mean, look at Rochester, 9 to 11 inches, Wausau, 9 to 11 inches, and then you get to Chippewa Falls and Rhinelander, we're talking about 12 to 14 inches of snow. So I don't expect much shifts there, but definitely expect some adjustments in southern Wisconsin. So particularly in southern Wisconsin, look for an update to this forecast tomorrow morning.